The year 1967 and the hippie movement in the United States reached its peak with the Summer of Love. In Bolivia, the rebel leader and freedom fighter Ernesto Guevara, otherwise known as Che, was executed without trial. In Cape Canaveral, with the launch of the Saturn V, the rocket was started for the first time that would fly to the moon 1 year later. And under the symbol AMG, a company was founded in Swabian Bergstahl, Germany, to increase performance of Mercedes engines. AMG, the epitome of automotive high performance and exclusivity and driving pleasure in the name of the star. From motorsport to the road, for more than 45 years, the three letters have set standards on and off the track. For those for whom a Mercedes is not enough, there's the AMG. The special thing about being able to drive an AMG was being able to afford something and then add to it. The Mercedes SLS AMG, a modern sports car icon. With its design and driving dynamics, it is symbolic of the Mercedes sports car myth. The first self-developed and mass-produced vehicle is also the masterpiece of AMG. The group's headquarters in Affalterbach in Germany. About 1,100 people take care of high-performance Mercedes Works cars here. Exclusive customer preferences, which cannot be fulfilled at the factory, are implemented in compliance with quality and safety standards of Mercedes-Benz in the AMG Performance Studio. Every year, approximately 20,000 units leave the test bench. Each engine is assembled by one mechanic under the principle, one man, one engine. He has 6 hours for the installation of up to 520 parts. Upon completion of the work, a plate bearing the signature of the technician comes onto the engine block. 1971, the 24-hour race at Spa in Belgium. A Mercedes AMG 300 SEL 6.8, nicknamed Red Sow, achieved class victory and its first race in 2nd place overall. The AMG brand immediately becomes world famous. The fathers of this success came from the southern German province. Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher.
I met Aufrecht at Mercedes. We rattled sabers together straight away on the first day we met, because we will always have different temperaments and different roles. We then made an engine like this for the sports department, and that had to be done a bit on the side.
Ultimately, we were forced in principle by our customers to become independent because previously we converted cars after work.
I did it before for 2 years, virtually always on the side, Saturdays, Sundays, at night, and then I had a circulatory collapse driving a motorcycle, and then I saw that I couldn't do everything at once. But Aufrecht was actually the driving force to become self-employed, and he pursued me, or rather, summoned me to do it.
Melcher had so much intelligence and ingenuity that I realized that I would be successful with him.
We chose a name in which both elements are there, and the A stands for Aufrecht, M Melcher, G stands for Grosserspach.
The desire in society for individuality and self-realization was there even before Germany's favorite child appeared. This gap in the market was recognized by the 2 Mercedes engineers. In the basement of a mill in Bergstahl, they devoted themselves to the performance of Mercedes engines, driving force and passion, motorsport. A lot was developed and tested in the following years, and from this, the first AMG 4-valve 8-cylinder was produced. The young company immediately found customers, and in the early years mainly modified SELs and Strich 8 or Stroke 8s. A witness to these days, the Mercedes-Benz AMG 230 from the W110 series.
We made absolutely no advertising or PR then. The customers told each other.
That they could then say, my Mercedes is an AMG Mercedes, and it is as fast as your BMW, and it is as fast as a Porsche, and they were.
One of the most popular tuning objects in the 70s and 80s, the SLC coupes. They provided a good basis for a power increase with V8 engines and high displacement. It was an incredibly dynamic car for this size. It was very fast and could play this out because it was naturally a lot lighter compared to other vehicles in the Mercedes program. With a weight of more than 1.5 tons, by no means a lightweight. But despite this, the SLC models drove to some successes in racing. In its most powerful tuning variant, the AMG 500 SL 5.4 had more than 300 horsepower. My black SLC really went up to 250, and that was at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, already like in modern times, where one can easily regulate at 250. The young company prospered magnificently, and in 1976, AMG moved to a newly built operation in Affalterbach. Erhard Melcher no longer followed this step. For the individualist, the project had become too large, but he remained with the company as an external specialist. The 80s witnessed a veritable tuning boom. AMG vehicles became a major export hit, and thanks mainly to the US and Japan. Most customers just couldn't get enough. One simply had a car made piece for piece at AMG or another tuner. One can first do a bit with the camshafts, a bit of performance, and then a new steering wheel. And then came another gear shift, and so the cars were built up bit by bit. There were cars that were at AMG 20, 30 times in their history. They repeatedly got a new registration in Affalterbach because they were individualized. Something was added or the whole engine came out and another one in. With the 280 model, you first did the camshafts and then the channels were added. A few years later, completely rebuilt to V8. Motorsport was a mainstay of AMG from the outset. And the success of the Red Sow, therefore, was very important for the young company, especially for external representation and to gain new customers. At the time, there was, of course, no internet, and advertisements and promotional activities were rare and not financially viable. The Red Sow, so the 6.8 W109, was the right approach. They had their fun, of course, spent a lot of money, but they got well known because of it. The company becomes known, an advertising image which they otherwise would have never been able to afford. From 1978, it continued in motorsports with the SLC 450 AMG Mempe. Slimmed down to 1,225 kilograms and 375 horsepower, the Mempe started in the European Touring Car Championship. The Mempe, the name was put on the SLC because it was the sponsor. There was a Lufthansa cocktail drink, and that was probably the only company to advertise on it and start the whole company because money flowed. In 1980, the Mempe SLC won the European Touring Car Championship Grand Prix at the Nürburgring Ring. From '88, we practically got the contract from Mercedes-Benz
to participate in motorsport.
6 years after the success of the Mampa, AMG entered the German Touring Car Championships with a 190e 2.316. The official partnership between Mercedes and AMG was a milestone for the company, and simultaneously the beginning of an unparalleled success story, which was followed with 11 titles.
AMG was later involved in the DTM and other similar racing series time and again. It was extremely important for AMG, firstly for the ego of Mr. Aufrecht, because he has always been interested in racing, but it was also incredibly important from a technical side to be able to sell their products worldwide.
We come from racing and we say, we are born on the racetrack. And this applies, of course, also to live this in the future, because our customers appreciate it when they can see us at the weekend and at the DTM. This is no doubt about that, since we get very, very positive feedback.
AMG was also the driving force in the FIA GT World Championships. The CLK GTR won the championship twice in 1997 and 98.
We are the only manufacturer that has won a series outright, winning all 10 races in 1998, including 6 with the double victory. For me, that was really the best experience of all, because we constructed a car completely for the first time, from design to putting the wheels on.
The engineers developed the CLK GTR in a record time of 128 days. The V12 delivered 600 horsepower and had an easy job with only 1,000 kilograms. With the elimination of the FIA GT1 class in 1999 came the early end of the CLK GTR. AMG is also involved in the elite class, Formula One. Not with its own team, but the company supplies the official safety and medical cars.
Motorsport was the pioneer, but in parallel, the official discipline known as tuning arose for Mercedes. And then in '90 in Paris, the agreement was signed. Back then, we coined the saying, we have to be star capable. That is, we have to design our development differently. We have to design our quality control differently, and so we were very quickly arrived at the subject that Daimler should invest here.
The first result of this investment was in 1993 with the C36 AMG. This combined the attributes of Mercedes like comfort, ergonomics, reliability, and security with the sporty character from house AMG. With over 5,000 vehicles sold, the sports sedan was a great success.
The C36 was also the first Mercedes-AMG that was shown in a normal, regular brochure. Beforehand, there were separate brochures for the 190, for the W124 or similar, but this time it was the first product that was listed in a row with the other diesel vehicles or similar. In terms of appearance, it had the typical AMG body parts, but exactly this design has held continuous up until today.
The E-Class is one of the most important vehicles ever for Mercedes-Benz. There's also been an AMG model for this since 1995, the E50. This was a clear sign of the growing partnership between the two companies and a new successful chapter. 2001 was the birth of the SL55 AMG. The V8 supercharged engine won the 2003 Engine of the Year award.
The milestone SL55 established a completely new era in technical and drive dynamic at AMG Mercedes. This compressor engine had performance which would have served any Ferrari or similar honorably. And also, of course, it was not only these longitudinal dynamics, but here was a large, heavy Mercedes that was driving sportily and dynamically on country roads for the first time. And what you cannot forget, it was the first AMG that was allowed to really scream in the Mercedes program.
Built from 2001 to 2008, the SL55 AMG is one of the most successful models of all time. AMG presented a model with a diesel engine for the first time at the Paris Motor Show in 2002, the C30 CDI AMG.
So, that was it, and you can tell that it had real power under the butt here. The guy, yes, 231 horsepower, station wagon, Dad had fun.
The T model cost about 50,000 euros at the time, and despite 540 Newton meters maximum torque, it did not really appeal to clients.
AMG and diesel is actually a very short story. There were really only two attempts. Once in the 80s with the W123, when turbocharger kits were offered, and later with the C30. Both times the time was not right for such vehicles. They were just too early in their realization. The C30 certainly made a career in Italy, for the German market at the time, and there was no demand.
AMG steadily expanded and had another 100 employees by 1987. In 1991, there were already 400, and the model range grew with the workforce.
Of course, for the hardcore AMG scene, the implementation that Mercedes was planning to bring an AMG version for every model was somewhat difficult. One already viewed this with suspicion, and then they also tried to equip the A-Class with an AMG signed body kit. But it was scratched at the last minute and brought out as the A210 and not as an AMG. And then that reconciled some.
In 1999, Hans-Werner Aufrecht initially transferred 51% of AMG shares to Daimler Chrysler. The Mercedes AMG GmbH emerged. Gradually, the remaining shares changed hands, and Hans-Werner Aufrecht has arrived at his goal. Since 2005, Mercedes AMG has been a 100% subsidiary of Daimler AG. Now, one could fall back on the resources of a world group. The AMG lettering at the back has always been the sports badge for a Mercedes. Amongst these athletes, some even stood out, like the 300e 5.6, which was presented in 1986, nicknamed the Hammer.
The name Hammer actually came from the American motoring journalist for this W124. This performance was only otherwise possible in a Porsche and old American muscle cars.
The price was also a hammer. At its highest configuration level, it cost 335,000 Deutsche Mark. Another bombshell was the SL73 AMG. The V12 with a 7.3-liter displacement was the largest engine ever to be fitted in an AMG. The CLK GTR was a traveling superlative. At over 3 million marks, the homologation model was the most expensive production car of its time, and only 25 of them were produced, 20 coupes and 5 roadsters.
Here it was about what was technically possible. A racing car for the road, a 17 Series Porsche for the road. I think they brought the direct successor for these highlights here.
Another exceptional talent came from the high-tech engine manufacturer in Affalterbach in 2004, the CLK DTM AMG. This was a throwback to Mr. DTM, Bernd Schneider, and his 2003 season race car. With a production of 100 units, the coupe was a rarity like the convertible presented in 2006. In the interior, it was rather more Spartan than opulent. The price at the time for the sporting duo, about 200,000 euros. Successes on the track awakened desires, especially with affluent clientele, and the wishes were heard at AMG.
Well, the Black Series vehicle is naturally distinguished in that it is really made for the racetrack, that we place value there on the whole drive dynamics, from handling to bring fun and enjoyment for our customers who like to drive on the track. This is certainly something that distinguishes this vehicle explicitly.
The Black Series models were born. The first was the 2006 SLK 55 AMG Black Series. The special models were lighter and more powerful than the base models, and stood for more sporting purism than comfortable luxury. For the 40th company anniversary in 2007, the CLK 63 Black Series came onto the market. Visually and technically, the CLK was related to the Formula One safety car. Seeing a Black Series on the roads is a rare treat.
One simply sold high-profile vehicles to collectors who drive the normal AMG in everyday life, but wanted to trump that again on Sunday.
The Blue Mauritius of the Black Series is the SL65 AMG. Just 250 were built. The most powerful of the Black Series cost around 320,000 euros in 2008. In 2011, the C-Class also received a Black Series version. With 507 horsepower, it is the most powerful C-Class of all time, and probably also the most expensive. The race car cost 115,000 euros. In 2009, the company wrote another important chapter in its chronicle, the SLS AMG Gullwing.
The SLS AMG was the first independently designed and built AMG car. They finally decided to build vehicles themselves. Ourselves as a small producer, of course, under the blessing of Mercedes-Benz. But they were able to exploit all means, and they could build something specially that was not conform and had nothing to do with the mass production of a normal basis vehicle.
A vision became reality. What began with the famous white sheet of paper, in the end became the masterpiece of AMG. With the SLS Gullwing, not only was a great success created, but it was also the ultimate accolade and confidence booster for the parent company Mercedes-Benz. What began 45 years ago as a two-man company is now a global brand, with over 1,100 employees and more than 20,000 units sold every year. The circle, which began in 1971 with the Red Sow, now accumulates with the SLS AMG.